Cameron came into this world and perfect little baby with big old eyes, and we had a lot of family around.
Lila was born in June 2008, and such a joyful occasion, our second child, and so fun to have a girl come into our family.
He was the kid that lit up a room. He just did everything with joy, and he loved life.
He had a beautiful smile. He had a really beautiful smile.
Becca was our second child, and very active. We're a sports family. My husband and I both played sports. We love watching sports, and Becca, like everybody else, was active in sports. Our cancer journey started when she was 10. She was getting ready for bed, and she looked at me like she didn't know who I was. And it took a minute, and I went and got my husband, and she just was staring, and she continued to have what we now knew were strokes. She went to the local emergency room. They didn't quite know how to handle what she had. They didn't know quite how to manage her situation. And when the nurse came out a second time and told us to call the priest, we were very concerned.
We were noticing some challenges that he was having with kind of stumbling. His balance was really off. He was having some headaches, and we weren't really sure what was going on. And we ended up taking him in for an MRI, and they found a tumor.
She starts vomiting occasionally, off and on, every couple of days. The pediatrician was like, I believe you. You know in your gut something's wrong. I'm going to get you directly admitted to Georgetown because they do a direct admission, and we'll run a bunch of tests and we'll get to the bottom of this. So they did a CT, and that's when they saw that there was something going on, and they rushed her in for an emergency MRI. And the resident comes in, and she was like, Cameron has a tumor about the size of a clementine. We need to do emergency surgery. She's got severe hydrocephalus. And we need to take her to the OR right now. And I'll never forget, this was obviously one of those moments in your life that you know your lives are changed forever.
I don't think anything can prepare you for that moment when the doctor comes in to say, you know, your child has a mass in their brain.
I remember that day in the room when they told us it was glioblastoma, and I just was like, what the hell is that? I'd never heard of it before. And then they tell you that it's terminal, and your life just changes.
Within a very short period of time, he had 2 brain tumor surgeries, resections that were followed by a number of other surgeries to put in a port, to get a spinal tap, and really to prepare him for significant radiation and chemo that would follow. You know, left the hospital in a wheelchair, was in a wheelchair and a walker, had a number of just terrible side effects from the treatment. I do look and I think of, you know, what would be different, not just for him now, but for his future if he had the appropriate drugs, the appropriate treatment that should be for kids, not for adults.
Lila's first treatment was a combination of 3 pretty toxic drugs: cisplatin, which, among other things, is known to cause long-term hearing loss; etoposide, which is known to cause a lot of things, but secondary cancers are a big one; and Avastin. So the really bad ones.
One of the first chemo that we gave her, it was a pill. And we give it to her once a day, and we put it in a styrofoam cup, and it immediately burned through the styrofoam cup because we were told not to touch it. And I looked at my husband, Joe, and I said, what are we giving her? I mean, what price are these children paying for the treatments that are hopefully going to save their lives? What are the long-term effects that come about because of those treatments?
Often we need to decide what dose of radiation therapy to give a young child. On the one hand, a higher dose may provide a better chance of survival. but at the same time be more toxic and result in more cognitive delays. This creates an impossible choice for a family between survival and quality of life.
She couldn't talk, she couldn't eat, she couldn't lift her head up, she couldn't sit, crawl, walk. I mean, you name it. Like, she was a newborn in an 18-month-old body. We're making the hardest decisions of our lives. And like, our kid's like a shell of a child.
I spoke at a conference in 2014. Before I went and spoke, I talked to one of the doctors there who I had worked with on other issues. And I asked him, what would Becca be treated with if she were going to be diagnosed now? He said, unfortunately, for children with brain tumors, there is no treatment any different from what she had 30 years ago.
I think the biggest surprise to me was the treatment options are extremely limited. Surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. There just aren't a lot of options. It's with your help that more of these options come available.
There's a lot of very promising new avenues for therapy that are being developed currently. But realizing the potential of those avenues requires money, requires resources for the research to happen, to develop all the way through to a clinical trial, to prove the effectiveness and the superiority of new therapies.
Pediatric brain cancer research is extremely complicated and multi-layered. Not something that the average person would know or understand. I certainly didn't. It's hard for these doctors and researchers to get the support and the funding they need. I felt a strong pull to start to do something to raise money to figure this issue out.
One of the most impressive things about the Lila Bean Foundation over 10 years is that it's still active and growing. The mission has become so much more vibrant and broad. We're now reaching a national audience in regards to donors, but also in regards to our impact, funding programs that are making a difference all around the country.
I think what's so interesting about Lila Bean is it has made it to that 10-year mark, which is a huge success. But they're also nimble and they can kind of find the new treatments, the things that are cutting edge. They're looking for the new things that could really be the cure.
When I think about what the Lila Bean Foundation has done and will continue to do in raising money for research and finding new clinical trials, there's nothing more important than that. And my hope is that in the future, kids like Ben and Lila won't have to go through what our children went through, and that they'll live not just long lives, but the quality of life will be what it should be, and our kids deserve that.
I'm just so grateful for anyone involved, anyone that's ever donated, anyone that will donate, because the Children's National Team runs the Brain Tumor Institute that Lila Bean Foundation has already donated so much money to. And it's studies like the study that ended in May 2020 that gave our doctors the data to make a more informed decision on Cameron's care, which ultimately increased her survivability rate by 10%. That's a lot.
Research has progressed, and we personally are blessed enough to see firsthand how there are different options available today for treatment. And as much progress as we've made in the last 10 years, it's not enough. When we held our first event 10 years ago, there were no drugs approved specifically for pediatric brain cancer. And still today, 10 years later, there are no drugs approved specifically for pediatric brain cancer.
Becca's legacy is sitting here in front of you. And I think that is the legacy that we are so proud of and happy that we see in our children.
I think Will would want people to never give up hope, because he didn't. And he would just want people to fight for finding a way to end this this disease.
You know, you always wait till your kids grow up to do something amazing and to see what they're going to become. And I think for us, it was a concern that we would never see what he might become. But I look at him and I think, he was my hero at 7 years old. He's fought more in this world than many people will ever have to. And he's triumphed in a lot of ways. And I just couldn't be more proud of him. He's amazing.
One thing I'm really looking forward to when I grow up is my ability to make change. It feels like, you know, if I can survive cancer, I can probably do so many other great things for the world. Thank you so much for donating to this great organization. It's really helpful so that kids don't need to go through the same thing that me and Lila did.
Thank you for all your support. You have no idea what it means to kids like me and families like mine. Every dollar counts.
I just can't believe, you know, that we've gone from the party in our backyard to raising, you know, over $2 million. Thank you for your support over the past 10 years. Thank you for being part of the Lila Bean Foundation community.